Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Fantasy Lamp DFS MLB live stream. I'm John and Pember alongside James Grande again. James, live stream yesterday went pretty well. Let's see if we can have two straight days of success here on today's 14 game slate.
Yeah, it went really well. We just are 0 for our last two on pitching calls. So let's make it a better day today.
Yeah. I mean, we had a couple of calls, but obviously some of the guys we really liked didn't pan out. You were obviously on the Severino. Thankfully, I was able to avoid that one. Your Yankees fandom, I think, is getting the better view there. But it's another day, another chance for us to make some money. So why don't you kind of lead us off? Tell us any weather concerns and any things to highlight.
So yeah, we do have an interesting day of weather. And one thing to note, I think it's just an important thing to take into consideration when building your lineups. We have 14 games. So if any of these games scare you based on weather, don't be afraid to avoid it. Because you have 13 or 12 or 11 or 10 other games to choose from. So, there are a few delay possibilities in Philadelphia, in New York for the Yankees-Rays game. That's pretty scary. It doesn't look great in Pittsburgh, Minnesota as well, and Kansas City is probably the hottest spot of the night. So all those spots, don't be afraid to avoid the pitching, because there are plenty of other options on this slate that you'll be able to choose from, and it will just help you with your research. If you just whittle out some games. Arizona, Texas, we have the highest projected total of the night. We have 10-run total over there. Pretty much every time someone plays in Texas, that happens to be the case.
Yeah.
And the Diamondbacks disappointed us big time last night, but they're right back on top of the totem pole, 5.74 implied runs. So they lead that. And we have actually the Rockies under 3 runs implied tonight, which I think is really interesting because, the one thing we've known about the Rockies forever is their ability to score runs. So those are just a few notes heading into the slate.
Yeah, I mean, they're obviously on the road today, Colorado, that is. So they take a little bit of a hit there, and they happen to be facing tonight's top price pitcher. We'll just jump right into the pitching. Justin Verlander. I'm not necessarily interested in using Verlander just because of all the other top priced pitchers on the slate. You get a little bit of a discount if you want to go down to guys like Patrick Corbin against Texas and Gallardo opposing him. Corey Kluber against Cincinnati and James Paxton against Oakland. You get almost $1,000, $800 discount down from Verlander. I don't think you need to pay up for him tonight, especially like you said. The Rockies lineup still has some dangerous bats, even though they are away from cores. But for me, I think there's sort of similar value across the top half of the pitching tonight.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I don't think I would completely X him out. I think he is in a really solid spot. And, Vegas kind of agrees with that. So
yep.
I think we should, limit our exposure because we can get someone like Corey Kluber for $900 cheaper or James Paxton for 1.4K cheaper on DraftKings. Obviously we like the discounts because we want to get bats. If we pay up for Verlander, it's going to be tough to get bats. So I guess it depends on where your builds lie. But GPPs, obviously, he could end up giving us 40 on DK and like 70 on FanDuel if the projections pan out. So, limit the exposure to GPP.
Yeah, I agree with you. And especially, as you mentioned, there's real weather concerns in that Toronto KC game. That's probably where we were going to get the value at starting pitching tonight. At Ryan Baricki, they're going against Kansas City. He's only $6,700. Really fits in nice as an SP2 if you're paying up for the guys like Paxton, Kluber, Corbin, Verlander to really help you get some bats in your lineup as well. If you have to take him out of the equation, now you have to pay up a little bit more for some of these SP2s. Maybe that brings the ownership down on guys like, like we mentioned, the top 4 price options because you really can't build a great lineup that way. What's your take there?
Yeah, we both like Baricki tonight, which kind of stinks. But yeah, it's kind of going to force us to spend down, like you mentioned, because you can't get him. I don't necessarily see anyone underneath him that I am comfortable with using, especially in a cash game format. We saw Ronaldo Lopez last night. We said SP2 didn't pan out
Sure.
quite. And so, like, looking back, Detroit last in baseball against righties. Giolito's sitting there, but it's like you just can't trust him. So, like,
Yeah, I don't.
avoiding Verlander at the top makes sense because we're gonna, it's gonna be we're gonna be pinching pennies here in the with our bats.
Especially on DraftKings where you can't really find much value whatsoever. Definitely gonna be a little bit difficult. But say we're gonna go all mid tier today. Where are we looking? I know for me, someone I've been riding a lot on the road is Jermaine Marquez in Colorado. Road ERA of 3.09, averaging 20.4 DraftKings points on road games, 71 strikeouts and 67 innings. I think he's a great mid-tier play. I pretty much always locked and loaded him in my lineup whenever he's on the road. Huge differences at home, 6.42 home ERA. So I know he's opposing Verlander, but this is an Astros lineup that's going to be without Springer and Altuve. Correa just coming back from the DL that maybe he's not really in tune yet. So I think Marquez is a great value at 8,400 on DraftKings, and I have him using in GBPs too over on FanDuel, where he's priced all the way down to 7,900.
Yeah, I mean, what's been great about Marquez too are the strikeouts, right?
Yep.
8, 9, and 10 his last 3 games. So whatever he's figured out in that department is what we are looking for when we're rostering starting pitching on all sites. So yeah, I'm fine with that. In an Astros lineup, kind of in flux. They're not the same lineup that we've seen in the last few years, and that's very apparent. So yeah, I think Marquez is obviously more GPP favored, and I think another guy price essentially the same as him is Alex Wood, also a GPP guy. Now I'm always scared of Dave Roberts, like more than I am about Wood's talent or any pitcher on that staff, not named Clayton Kershaw, may get pulled in the 4th inning just because he threw like 3 straight balls. Dave Roberts is a psychopath in that regard. So obviously we have to watch someone coming off the DL. But the 4 starts leading up to his before his disabled list stint, he did eclipse 96 pitches in all 4, which is obviously trending in the right direction. The length wasn't great. He didn't get past 6 innings. Yeah. But we saw what Clayton Kershaw did versus the Giants yesterday. 9 strikeouts, 8 innings, just 1 earned. If we can get Wood to give us 6 innings, 1 earned, and a few less strikeouts, I mean, essentially we're getting similar type value at price tag 1.8K less than Kershaw yesterday. So I think Wood GPPs only is a really nice option as long as Dave Roberts doesn't screw it all up.
No, I agree with you there. Obviously, the one thing lacking from Wood this year is sort of the strikeouts of late, which kind of hurts his value, I think, especially on DraftKings, where they ding you for the walks, they ding you for the hits allowed. If you're not making those things up with strikeouts to get your outs, kind of hurts your value, but I still like him. He's pitched 3 games against San Francisco this season, 2.29 ERA, averaging 17 DraftKings points in those 3 starts, so that's perfectly fine with me. And he's coming off the DL with a hamstring injury, so it's not like an arm or shoulder or elbow, something like that, which is what he's kind of dealt with in the past. Whenever he's been hurt, it's sort of been arm related. So I'm not too worried about it. Hopefully, like you said, Roberts will let him go to that 100 pitch mark. Of course, like you said, it's only going to go to 6 innings, so give or take there. Maybe not the greatest FanDuel play if he doesn't get that quality start. A couple other guys I think worth mentioning in the mid-tier, Anibal Sanchez. He's going to be coming off the DL from a calf injury, but he's facing Miami. Should be a good matchup for him. Marlins obviously, not a great lineup. Traded Justin Bour recently, and Anibal Sanchez has pitched really well for Atlanta. 2.83 ERA, 1.05 WHIP this season. I like him a lot at 8,600. Probably as my last mid-tier guy of the 4 we've talked about so far.
I mean, yeah, it's hard not to like him. The matchup with the Marlins is something that we are going to basically mention every time that they're on the slate, right? I mean, it's just what they are. They're just not a good team. And Anibal Sanchez, for whatever reason, has reverted to last couple of years Anibal Sanchez. I don't understand it, but I mean, even the strikeouts have been there. I mean, other than his 2-inning outing before he was removed for the injury, 9, 4, 8, 6, 8. No. So the strikeouts have been consistent. We know this Marlins team is going to swing and miss. They have a lot of young, heavy swinging bats. I think Sanchez is really in a really, really good spot. Probably in all formats, honestly, because we're lacking that real value tier pitcher that we can use in cash. I'd be willing to go Sanchez in basically every format.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine with me. I don't mind them. I think, like I said, Wood, Marquez, and Sanchez probably great mid-tier options tonight. I'm not really interested in Porcello. I know the Phillies have kind of struggled a little bit since the All-Star break, but he's been a little bit up and down. National League ballpark, who knows how Cora ends up dealing with him in terms of maybe they have to get a bat in there and pull him out of the game early. I'm probably not going to go in that direction. Let's move on to catcher. Obviously, the guy we always talk about at the top, Yadi Molina. Gio Gonzalez has been not great. His peripheral numbers have always suggested regression was bound to happen. He started off the season on fire. Been up and down really ever since. And he's got a good BVP against him. He's 7 for 20, batting .350 with 3 doubles in his career against Gio Gonzalez. I think maybe a stack of Cardinals tonight could be in play.
Yeah, and I was looking up on Fangraphs earlier today, and the Cardinals are actually the #1 team in baseball against left-handed pitching since the All-Star break.
Wow.
So that's something to consider, and that's average-wise. So I think that's something to consider into our builds tonight. I think it's going to be really tough to fit him because we mentioned how pricey the pitching is tonight. It's going to be really hard to fit him, but if you can, he is clearly the top play at 4.1K.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Any other mid-tier options maybe to look at, or top price options?
I kind of like Buster Posey, contrarian. I know I just touted Alex Wood, but like Posey just continues to hit year in, year out. 359 over his last 10 games, 292 BVP, which is 7 for 24 off Alex Wood, and he's hitting 312 against lefties. So like check. Buster Posey in a GPP, I think is in a very nice spot. Moving a little bit further down, Robinson Chirinos for his lefties. Last year, he had an OPS over 850. He's actually finally coming into his own a little bit at the plate. 294, 429, 500 slash over his last 10 games. And we just saw him in a home run yesterday. So, yeah. I mean, I think he's in a really good spot in the mid-tier. So I like all three of those guys. Are probably, if you have money to spend up catcher, those three are the I think the pretty obvious choices.
Yeah, and then if we're spending down, yesterday we talked about Narvaez in that matchup, and he hit a home run. Kevin Smith starting tonight for the White Sox. He's 2,800 on DraftKings, where you really need to play the catcher there, and he's killing left-handed pitching this season. Hitting 393 with an OPS of 897 against Blaine Hardy today, hitting 6th. I think I like the White Sox tonight. I think Jose Abreu was in play. We'll talk about him in a second. But Kevin Smith at 2,800, I think, is really where I'm going at catcher tonight. I'm spending down with him, needing to save that money, and going there.
I mean, all formats. I know Blaine Hardy's actually been good, which is weird to think about because he wasn't for like all of last year. But yeah, I think Smith is just logical choice in all formats. I mean, he's hitting 6th at 2.8K on DraftKings. In a plus matchup. So, I think he's a no-brainer for all formats.
Yep, that's sort of where I'm at. All right, let's move on to first base. Top first base option to me, again, I'm going to go back to the well. I know I touted Paul Goldschmidt yesterday against Bartolo Colon. Didn't get the game I was looking for. I'm going to go with him again tonight against Yovani Gallardo. Back in the Texas Heat. He's 6 for 12 against Gallardo in his career. I think this is another spot for him, I think, to really turn it around for us.
Yeah, and he wasn't terrible last night. 2 for 4 with a stolen base. Obviously, we were hoping for the 3 for 5 with 2 home runs the night before, but tonight is another night. I think I agree. The Diamondbacks, which could, they stunk last night, and it could benefit us tonight going back to them because maybe people are bitter and they're, that last night is impairing their vision on them tonight. So I think it is a nice route to go back to Diamondbacks and Goldschmidt. I think Matt Carpenter is just going to forever be in play. Yeah. It doesn't matter lefty-righty. If Pat Venditti, the righty and the lefty, pitches, if he's throwing one pitch righty, it doesn't matter right now because Carpenter is just.
Is he still in baseball?
He's just I saw a note on him yesterday.
Okay.
He is still playing,
Okay.
not in the majors, but
Okay.
he was the first ambidextrous pitcher I thought of. Really the only.
Yeah.
But Carpenter 7 home runs in his last 10 games. He has like a million since the All-Star break. So I mean, 5K. He's not going to be owned. I think a lot of people aren't going to play a lefty against a lefty. And Gio has pretty good numbers against left-handed left-handed hitters, excuse me. So I think Carpenter is a really contrarian option to Goldschmidt at the top.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. If we're going down mid-tier or mid-tier price down from those two guys, as I mentioned before, I like Jose Abreu. He's got over 1,000 OPS last year against lefties. This year it's 932. He's a guy that's starting to heat up. And like I said, I kind of like the White Sox. I know you mentioned Blaine Hardy starting to pitch well, but I don't really know how much longer that can last. This isn't a guy with good peripheral numbers. So, give me Abreu sort of below those two guys in terms of price for me.
Yeah, I mean, he's been elite against left-handed pitching for, I mean, he's really just a really good hitter overall.
Oh, yeah, 300 every year, pretty much. So.
No, literally every year he's been in professional baseball. I think it's might not happen this year, which stinks because his lineup is just so atrocious in front of him. But 1,033 OPS last year, 932 OPS last year, both versus left-handed pitching. So, I mean, you literally can't go wrong using this guy. He's fine. Like, another guy who limped into the All-Star break, and the All-Star break did him justice. Yep. So he's been on a roll. I think in that tier, you mentioned the Cardinals. I think Jose Martinez he's in one of those crazy stretches that he's gone through like 4 times this year where he's just like
raking.
He's just he just hits and hits and hits. He's riding a 5-game hit streak, 3 of which have been multi-hit games. Yesterday, 4 hits. I know all of them are singles, but 4 hits nonetheless. I mean, 4 hits are 4 hits,
Yeah, no, for sure.
So I think Martinez fits perfectly into a Cardinal stack, hitting third, 347 WOBA off of left-handed pitchers. Gio, contrast, 347 WOBA against right-handed bats. So I think Martinez in that mid-tier is an excellent play as well.
Yeah, and I think one more guy similar priced. And if you go with that Cleveland stack today against Sal Romano, as James and I have said a couple of times now in the live stream, you can pretty much go any lefty bats against his Reds pitching staff, and they're all just hitting 300 with a 900 OPS. Romano this year, same spot, 294 to the 887 left-handed batters are hitting off of him. I know Yonder is really struggling right now, only hitting 195 over his last 10 games. But again, that small ballpark out in Cincinnati, good matchup against Romano. He's hitting cleanup for them with Edwin out. I really think that this is a good spot. And if you're going to try to stack Indians today, he's one of the cheapest of the group. So I think there's double home run potential in him as well.
Yeah, he's kind of like a necessity if you want to stack the Indians, right? Because you can't, again, it's like last night, you can't afford Ramirez, Lindor, Brantley. So it's like you pick 2 and then you include like Alonso and one of their outfielders. And
Melky Cabrera, something like that.
Yeah, and you can fit it. Like you just can't afford to spend up 5.8 to 6K on everyone. So I think Alonso makes perfect sense in an Indian stack.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to second base here. Who's your top guy?
So no one like top priced necessarily, but I think Daniel Murphy is just in a fantastic spot. I mean, we're finally seeing the Murph of old, just hitting. The power numbers aren't there. Just 1 home run over his last 10 and just 5 in 50 games this year. So, a 449 slugging percentage isn't exactly what we want to see out of Murph. But 359 over his last 10 games. And he's just priced so fairly. 4.2. If you have to use him at first base tonight, you can do that as well on DraftKings. He's multi-position eligible. So I think Murph is in a great spot. He's probably the best cash game play at second today, especially over on FanDuel. So, I mean, just 3.3K on FanDuel. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's very cheap. I agree with you there. I think a good mid-tier option that we're going to find maybe a lot of people will go to is a returning Robinson Cano tonight.
Yeah.
He's second base eligible for now, but he's playing first base. So probably tomorrow he'll have dual eligibility on DraftKings, but only 3,900 in his return game. He's 4 for 11 and with 2 home runs off Mike Fiers. Before he was suspended, he was playing pretty well, 287 average, with 4 home runs. So I think, he had a good kind of rehab stint as well, if you will, while he was coming back to the minors from suspension. So I think Cano could be kind of a sneaky play here.
Did you see that? I know it was high A, but did you see that majestic grand slam he hit last night? Oh my God, it was a bomb.
Yeah.
It's gonna be weird to see him like so chalky. But fly ball pitcher against Mike Fiers. We definitely have some home run potential tonight. We know he was juicing up, so I mean the roids could help. Could help him lift one out. But yeah, I think Cano is in a really good spot, and I think at the same price tag, I'm not scared off by the bats in Kansas City Toronto game, and I think Devon Travis, who's finally coming around himself. This is his rookie year he was great, and we haven't seen that in a couple years. He's finally healthy. He hit a home run yesterday. He's hit 3 over his last 10 games, slashing 317, 349, 561 over that span. Moving up to 2-hole tonight. Yeah. So I think Devon Travis can be a really sneaky value play at second place.
Yeah, I think if we're going to go even cheaper than that, Forsythe still hitting 417 over the last 10 games, $3,200 second base, third base eligibility, hitting 6 tonight. So I think that's a good spot to save money as well, given the fact that we don't love exactly everybody at the top at second base tonight. So why not spend down and try to find a way to save some money? Because as we move to third base, Jose Ramirez, $5,900 last night, kind of paid off the price tag with the home run, 3 hits, 3 RBIs, 2 runs scored. Gonna be hitting lefty again against Sal Romano, like we said, absolutely crush him. I think if you're gonna try to pick one guy and build around tonight, I think it's Jose Ramirez.
Yeah, I don't really have much to add to that. He is probably the top play of the slate, and we can move on. He's just he's insane. He's insane. Yeah, he's my top play. You did the playbook today, so. He's my top play.
Below him for $1,000 on DraftKings is Eduardo Escobar. Again, we like going back to sort of that Arizona well against Gallardo. Escobar gets a hit left-handed, which is his strong side. This season, he's got a 920 OPS from the left side of the plate, and he's hitting 300 since joining the Diamondbacks as well. So I think he's another guy in a good spot. $1,000 cheaper than Ramirez, like I said, so maybe a little bit of a discount, but still relatively expensive. If we're going to try to look at a couple guys that are cheaper, Rafael Devers is $3,700 on DraftKings. Boston expected to put up some runs tonight. He's facing Nick Pivetta. Lefties are hitting 313 with an 844 OPS against Nick Pivetta. So Devers potentially in a good spot there, hitting 6th. And then over in Atlanta, Camargo, even though he's going to be hitting left-handed, so maybe not as great as a play as it would if he's hitting right-handed, because Trevor Richards is a reverse splits guy, but Camargo right now is on fire. And I really think that the Braves are going to put up some runs tonight.
Yeah, I think the whole Braves team, pitcher and batters, are a really, really good way to go tonight. Just as a complete team stack, moved up a little bit. I mean, we're used to seeing Camargo hit 6th, 7th, and he's hitting right in the heart of the order, 5th tonight. Great play. Great play. Even though he has notoriously been better from the right side, like you mentioned. I think Camargo. I think for $100 more, maybe a little. Our seemingly our favorite play in the world, David Freese. He's. I mean, we've been touting him versus lefties more, but versus right-handers this year, 824 OPS. Yeah. So it's not like it's not like his numbers are dropping off, based on the split. And he's hitting 314 over his last 10 games. So hitting 4th. I actually wrote up the Pirates today as a stat in my stacks article. I like the Pirates. I like Freese hitting 4th. So I think that's a nice way to go as well.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to argue with that by any stretch of the imagination. I think that's a good spot for Freese as well. Let's move on to shortstop. Lindor, obviously top price guy there. He's also 5,900. The one thing with Lindor, unlike with Jose Ramirez, where he hits 300 with 1,000 OPS from either side of the plate, Lindor's pure power comes from the left side, but he doesn't hit for a high average. He's a better average hitter from the righty. So maybe there's some, reasons to be cautious there because he is so expensive. And if it's not a home run that he's hitting, he doesn't really pay off that value too much. Last night, obviously, 2 for 4 with 2 runs scored, didn't pay off the 5,900. But I'll go back to the well against tonight. For me, I think he's the top shortstop.
Yeah, and I mean, we also have to consider the fact that he's stolen 19 bases as well. So, especially with a right-hander on the mound, he's more prone to go, and he's more prone to be successful as well. So, I think we are, obviously for 5.9K, we want a home run, and that's just what it comes down to. But last night, 14 points is a home run, and he didn't hit one last night. So if he had those 14 points plus a stolen base, if he goes 2 for 4, has a similar line as last night and gives us a stolen base, he hits value and surpasses it. So I mean, I think that's not out of the realm of possibility. He's going to be much lower owned than Jose Ramirez, but yeah, he's the top shortstop on the slate. But I wouldn't put it past you or think anything less of you if you didn't play him at 5.9K because the price tag is crazy.
Right. If you're picking out the order, you're going Jose Ramirez over Lindor, in my opinion. So
10 out of 10 times.
Yeah. Go down a little bit. Do you have any interest in Didi tonight?
I do, and he's hitting at Yankee Stadium, which he's been great at this year. 303 average, 926 OPS, and 14 of his 21 home runs have come at the stadium. He's just so pricey, man. 4.8K is very expensive, and just you consider the pitching again. It's always kind of reverting back to pitching because depending on how much we spend at pitcher depends on how much we're going to spend elsewhere. If we put someone in like Ramirez, we're not going to have much salary, and I think there are guys that are less expensive than Didi make more sense like in certain builds. So yeah, he's great in a GPP, but like in a cash game, I don't think you can afford to do it.
No, it's definitely going to be a little bit tougher in cash games for sure. Going down a little bit more, slightly cheaper, still relatively expensive. John Segura, 4,100 against Mike Fiers. Again, he's going to be hitting, was it third tonight in their lineup. He's 3 for 5 in his career with a double and a home run. Fiers, rather, 423 with a double and a home run over the last week. So I think he sort of fits in nicely if you're looking to save some cash at shortstop.
Yep. Interesting hitting third. He was producing so many runs earlier in the year at the 2-hole with D. Gordon actually like hitting. So it'll be good to see Segura in another run producing spot. I think for $100 more, I'm going to keep harping on the Cardinals. Paul Dejong, as we call him. Back-to-back games with the home run, 3 in his last 4, 4 in his last 6. The power that we saw last year has returned. And, he's hitting right in the heart of the order. I think the Cardinals stack is really, 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 really strong tonight. And I think you can get away with playing DeJong in all formats, ? 3.7K on FanDuel is nice. And I know he's kind of home run dependent, but they're coming in bunches right now. So, I'm not totally against it.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Let's move on to the outfield. And, yesterday you touted him. And I think he has to be probably the top outfielder again today. And we're getting relatively a discount compared to the other top plays here. Ronald Acuna gets the great matchup there against Trevor Richards. As I mentioned before, Trevor Richards is a reverse split guy. Righties are hitting 305 with an 865 OPS, while he's holding lefties to a 186 average on the year. So I think he certainly deserves to be in all lineups, especially at $4,900 on DraftKings, where, like we said, all the top guys are priced $5,500 to $6,000.
Yeah, he's not just doing it with the power. Yes, the power is very evident. 4 home runs, a home run in his last 4 games, 6 in his last 7. But a couple stolen bases. He's had back-to-back multi-hit games. He has a run scored in 7 straight games. He's producing in fantasy in literally every facet. And it was interesting. I don't know if reading on Greg Jewett's closing bell last night, if you think about it, he might be a top 20 fantasy pick next year, just
sure.
at 20 years old. So it's just, I mean, the guy is just on top of the world right now. And I think I'm with you. Based on salary alone and production, pairing them both, I mean, he's the best outfield option based on both of those things.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue at all with you there. Yeah. You want to talk about another guy that's probably going to be in that same realm in terms of next year, Juan Soto, $200 cheaper than him. I know, lately he's only hitting 230 over his last 10 games, but homered in his last game. And I mean, could be another spot for him tonight.
I think him and Harper are both elite options. I think this could be a really sneaky game snack. I guess sneaky isn't the correct term because they could garner a lot of ownership, but I mean, the runs scored in this game could be pretty high, and I know you get the discount off Soto, on Soto from Harper, but I think both of them are just like you can pick names out of a hat. I mean, Harper went deep yesterday as well as Soto too, so I think both of them are in elite spots here against John Gant. Yeah,
I'm not going to argue with that. If we're spending, sort of all the way to the top here, I think Brantley, as we mentioned before, $5,300. He gets that lefty righty matchup against Sal Romano. Brantley's hitting 371 over his last 10 games. Solid option here. My Red Sox all in play against Pivetta. JD Martinez, Mookie Betts, if you want to go that way. Red Sox stack should probably be relatively popular tonight as well. If we want to save some money, as I mentioned before in that Cleveland stack, Melky Cabrera is $3,900. He's hitting 250 over his last 10 games, so the average is kind of getting up there for him. So a way to save money as part of that stack. And then Marcell Ozuna is another guy that I think is really discounted right now. If you want to talk about getting a good matchup here, he's kind of finally started to heat up again, hitting 318 over his last 10 games. This is a guy that when he got hot earlier a month or so ago, he's hit home runs every day, gets a righty-lefty matchup against Gio Gonzalez. I'm a fan of him tonight as well.
I mean, do you guys realize that we are telling you to play Cardinals tonight? I think. Yeah. Hopefully we've gotten that point across. Ozuna's in a great spot. I mean, we saw this guy drive in 130 runs last year, so like that's the type of production that we can. I want to see. So I think that's coming around. I think something that we need to point out is how about the Mets/Orioles outfielders? I mean, Jason Vargas and Andrew Kashner is a real life matchup in Major League Baseball in 2018. I mean, obviously, you think Orioles, you don't think first name off like top of your head is Adam Jones, and he's probably my least favorite.
Yeah, Trey Mancini is probably the way to go there, right?
Yeah, Mancini and Mark Trumbo over his last 10 games, 394, 412, 758 slug with 4 home runs. He's in the lineup. I know he's pricey, but I mean, if you just look at Jason Vargas splits this year, it's literally insane.
Well, he's not a good pitcher, so yeah. What he did in the first half of last year never made any sense. So.
And neither did the Mets signing him. Right. But I think him sneaky over on FanDuel, Cedric Mullins, their prospect that they called up, has started off with a hit in 3 of his first 4 games, 5 for 13 so far. I think he could be a really sneaky value over on FanDuel. And how about Austin Jackson revitalized in New York? 424, 457, 606 slash over his last 10 games. Hitting second, seventh tonight. He hit second yesterday. But I think all of them could be. I wrote this up in my Stacks article too. I think this is an interesting way. They have a 9.5 run total for this game. So I think
the pitches are bad. So
right.
I think we have one more guy I want to talk about before we get going here. Charlie Culberson is an outfielder, plays third base, outfield eligibility in DraftKings. Guy I'm really looking at. I know he's a righty who hits right-handed pitching really well this year. Over the last week, he's hitting 389 with 3 home runs. He's hitting 302 with an 880 OPS against righties. As I mentioned, Trevor Richards, he's a reverse splits guy. He's giving up a 305 average, 865 OPS to right-handed bats. I think Culberson is someone that's worth being in your lineup as part of that Brave stack, and he's only 3,900 on DraftKings, 2,700 on FanDuel. Good value there. And then Cole Calhoun, I guess, is the last guy I want to talk about. I think he's in a great spot tonight. Good power of late. And since the All-Star break, he's hitting 318 with 1,000 OPS.
Yeah, I think both are either stack options, or you can play them as one-offs in a cash game or as in a tournament as well. So, I like both those calls.
All right. Any final calls before we sign off?
Nope. Just everyone, good luck on your build tonight. Good luck in all your tournaments, and may you all finish second behind me.
Yeah, we'll get you back tomorrow. See you later.
Later, guys.